Systems of ownership and profit are quietly assembled.
The creators of the value applaud, while the builders of the infrastructure collect.
Yes. And the differential isn't about talent,
Hmm.
which is how society usually frames success and failure, right? Like, oh, you just weren't talented enough.
Right, right.
But the text points out that this gap is strictly about awareness, and it's rarely accidental. It's actively manufactured.
Actually, there's a moment in this text that stopped me in my tracks when I read it.
The quote,
Yeah, the author is, quote, a prominent rapper who was reflecting on the music industry. And this artist noted that the people running these exploitative systems, they actually enjoy hearing the sound of laughter from the people they are exploiting.
yeah,
The quote from the text is that the laughter is, quote, the green light.
a green light. It's
Yeah.
chilling.
Yeah, it is. So the idea is that if the people generating the value are laughing, if they're having a great time, it means they are fully distracted.
And if they're distracted, the extraction can continue completely uninterrupted.
And the document calls the space the giggling room.
The giggling room is such a visceral term. It's basically a space of emotional elevation without any intellectual activation.
Wow. Okay.
The people inside are so focused on the festivity that they don't notice the architecture being built around them. And powerful institutions, whether we're talking about media conglomerates or financial systems or big tech, they have a highly documented interest in keeping certain communities in this constant state of celebration.
It makes me think of a stage magician.
Oh, how so?
Well, the magician sets off a puff of colorful smoke.
Right.
Or a bright flash on the left side of the stage. You're looking at the smoke, completely mesmerized, maybe you're cheering,
Right.
but meanwhile, their other hand is quietly unbuckling your watch and slipping it into their pocket.
Exactly. The smoke isn't there to entertain you. It's a mechanism to rob you.
Right. So bringing this into the modern day, the text explicitly calls out social media as the most efficient delivery mechanism for this giggling room pattern that has ever existed.
Oh, absolutely.
But it also says this happens without any actual conspiracy. So I have to ask, if there isn't a smoke-filled room of villains planning this out, how exactly does a line of code act as a giggling room?
Well, it comes down to the fundamental mechanics of how algorithms generate revenue.
Okay.
A social media platform doesn't need a villainous master plan.
Yeah.
It only requires one thing to function, and that's engagement.
Right.
According to the Equity Guide, images of people celebrating, performing carefree abundance, or even drinking in the midst of chaos, those images perform incredibly well.
They just accumulate clicks.
Clicks, shares, all of it. But let's look at the underlying mechanism. While the creator is paid in dopamine and likes maybe a fleeting sense of cultural relevance, the platform is extracting hard data.
Right.
They're mapping social graphs, testing behavioral triggers, and selling that predictable attention to advertisers.
So the creator gets the applause, but the platform gets the equity.
Precisely. And over time, as those carefree images go viral, they become attached to specific communities. They start to represent those communities.
Ah, I see.
Slowly, the image becomes the expectation. Then the expectation becomes the identity.
Wow.
And finally, that identity becomes a constraint. You are expected to just be the entertainment, the carefree content creator. You aren't supposed to be the architect of your own platform.
So what's the rule of thumb the text provides to combat this? Because it was pretty stark.
It's very stark. It simply says, don't giggle.
Don't giggle, jeez. So if the giggling room is the method of distraction, we have to look at what is actually being stolen while everyone is busy looking at the smoke. Like, how does this theft work on a macro scale?
This leads us right into Equity's next major concept,
Yeah.
which they call the quiet capture.
A macro trap.
Exactly. It's the historical pattern where marginalized communities produce incredible cultural value while outside entities construct the infrastructure that monetizes that value at scale.
And the text points to the 20th century popular music industry as the ultimate case study for this, right?
Oh, undeniably. It's the perfect example of this mechanism in action.
Yeah, think about genre after genre across the last century. Blues, jazz, rock and roll, hip-hop, R&B. In every single case, the originators from marginalized communities produced the cultural art.
Yep.
They carried the raw emotional weight and the lived experience that made the music resonate so deeply. I mean, they threw the party. They made the magic happen in the room.
But while the community was celebrating its cultural moment, someone else, these outside institutions, was building what the text calls the warehouse.
The warehouse. Let's break down how that actually functions.
Sure. So the originators were often handed flat cash for a gig or recording session, which, feels like a win in the moment.
Right. You get paid, you're happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the outside institutions were securing the publishing rights. They were writing the licensing agreements, holding the mechanical royalties, building the copyright portfolios.
Wow.
So by the time the original creators looked up from the celebration, the financial machinery was already running on their culture, completely out of their control.
The creators owned the memory of the performance, but the institutions owned the asset.
Exactly.
Wait, hold on, though. I need to stop you there just to play devil's advocate for the listener.
Okay, go for it.
This sounds incredibly bleak. Are they saying we shouldn't celebrate?
Because for a lot of communities that have been marginalized or faced historical hardship, expressing joy is literally a form of resistance.
Right.
So were we supposed to just stop having fun and only focus on reading contracts? That is a crucial pushback. And equity actually anticipates it in the text. They make a very clear distinction here. Joy is not a trap. Celebration, inherently, is not the problem at all.
Okay, so where does the trap actually spring?
The trap is the asymmetry.
The asymmetry.
Yeah. It is the systematic amplification of celebration, while at the exact same time, in those exact same communities, on those exact same platforms, strategy and infrastructure are systematically suppressed.
Oh, I see.
So think about the algorithmic mechanics we just talked about. A video of a community dancing might get 10 million views, heavily promoted by the platform.
Right.
But a video from that same community explaining how to retain master recordings or how to incorporate a business, that gets suppressed or buried.
Wow.
That asymmetry isn't a coincidence. It is information.
Yeah.
It tells you who benefits from what gets amplified and what gets buried.
Asymmetry is information that completely recontextualizes so much of what we see online.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not that you can't have fun. It's that if the only thing you're known for and the only thing you're rewarded for is having fun, you are being set up for extraction.
And the long-term psychological effect of this asymmetry is devastating. The text describes it as a kind of cultural Stockholm syndrome.
Seriously?
Yeah. Over time, an attachment develops where admiration starts flowing toward the very systems responsible for the extraction.
Like the extractive record label becomes aspirational.
Exactly. Or the exploitative tech platform becomes home. The infrastructure that captured the value becomes the object of loyalty. And as the guide warns, celebration replaces strategy.
Man. We've spent a lot of time on these massive macro-level industry trends, the music business, social media algorithms, historical exploitation.
Right.
But one of the most brilliant pulls of this guide is how equity argues this exact same architecture operates in our everyday interpersonal conversations.
It scales down perfectly.
Does this happen in normal day-to-day jobs?
It absolutely does. The same logic of extraction appears in compressed form in ordinary daily interactions. The text calls this micro-level tactic the contaminated acknowledgement.
The contaminated acknowledgement.
Yeah, this is when a gift, whether that's your time, your specialized knowledge, your resources, is met with gratitude or praise. But that praise is deliberately fused with an accusation or an insult.
Okay, let me translate this to a scenario that I think anyone who has worked in a corporate environment will instantly recognize.
Let's hear it.
Imagine you step up and work through the weekend. You share your specialized expertise to save a floundering project at work.
Okay.
On Monday, your manager turns to you in front of the entire team and says, "Thank you so much for putting in the extra hours to fix this, especially given your attitude lately."
Yes, that is a textbook contaminated acknowledgement right there.
It's so jarring.
The recognition of your value and the indictment of your character arrive in the exact same breath.
It leaves you completely paralyzed, like you don't even know how to respond to that.
Because it forces the recipient into an impossible lose-lose choice.
Right.
If you accept the gratitude, you tacitly absorb and accept the indictment about your quote-unquote attitude. You're agreeing with the insult.
Oh, wow.
But if you reject the indictment and try to defend yourself, you immediately appear to be rejecting the gratitude. You look defensive, petty, and ungrateful in front of all your peers.
You can't win.
You can't. The guide uses a brilliant phrase for this, calling it a vehicle for corrosion. It was never designed to land cleanly. It was designed specifically to destabilize your authority.
Wow.
It protects the extractor's ego. They get to look like a benevolent, thankful manager,
Wow.
while simultaneously undermining your moral standing and your confidence.
It keeps you totally off balance. And think about the mechanics of that. If you are off balance, you are not asking for a raise.
No.
You are not demanding credit for saving the project. You are not claiming ownership of the massive value you just provided. You're spending all your energy just trying to prove you don't have a bad attitude.
Exactly. The architecture is identical to the macro scale we saw in the music industry. praise for creative genius is delivered alongside a mechanism that extracts the financial or structural benefit of that genius.
Oh, we have the giggling room keeping us distracted with smoke,
Right.
and the contaminated acknowledgement keeping us off balance interpersonally.
Yep.
The text highlights one more tactic that protects this whole system, and that is the mislabeling problem. How does mislabeling function as a defense mechanism?
Well, mislabeling happens when exploitative behavior is falsely assigned to a demographic identity rather than being accurately analyzed as a structural strategy.
Okay, what does that look like?
Instead of saying, this institution or this manager is using a documented behavioral strategy to maintain dominance and extract value, people will say, oh, they're just acting like a typical boomer, or that's just how millennials behave,
Oh, I see.
or they blame a specific gender or social class.
Right. It collapses the intellectual analysis entirely. We stop looking at the gears of the machine.
Exactly. Mislabeling protects the mechanism by redirecting everyone's attention. Instead of looking at how the extraction works, we end up in these endless cultural debates about who is doing it.
It acts as an incredibly effective shield for the people building the warehouse. Because while society is busy fighting over demographic labels, the extraction continues completely unnoticed.
That's another puff of smoke from the magician.
Yeah. We're arguing about the identity of the person on stage while the system quietly keeps unbuckling our watches.
Precisely. Which is why accurately naming these behaviors is so critical to dismantling them.
And that brings us to the most important part of this deep dive. Up to this point, we have mapped out a pretty sophisticated, honestly kind of heavy trap.
It is heavy.
But the entire purpose of equity's text is to prove that powerlessness is a condition. Conditions can be changed. So how do we actually close the awareness differential?
Well, the guide lays out a very clear, three-move process to reclaim leverage.
Okay, what's move one?
Move 1 is to reject inherited powerlessness. This means actively rejecting the narrative that powerlessness is simply who you are, or that it's an inescapable reality of your background, your industry, or the economy.
You have to recognize it as a condition that was produced by distraction and miseducation?
Exactly.
That makes total sense. You can't fix the machine if you believe the machine is just a force of nature, like gravity. You have to see it as something that was built by humans, which means it can be dismantled by humans.
Right.
What's the next step?
Move 2 is to name accurately. We just talked about the mislabeling problem, right?
Yeah.
Well, this move is the antidote. Do not say someone is acting like a certain demographic. Name the behavior. Name the mechanism.
Call it extraction.
Yes. Call it a contaminated acknowledgement. Call it the giggling room. When these mechanisms are named accurately, they instantly lose the cover of ambiguity that allowed them to operate undetected.
The magician's trick only works if you don't know how the hidden wire functions.
Exactly. Once you point at the wire and name it, the illusion is broken forever.
I love that. So moves 1 and 2 are about shifting your awareness. But move 3 is where this turns into tangible action. Move 3 is build the warehouse.
This is the climax of the framework. It is not enough to just consume culture. It's not even enough to produce culture. You have to understand and own the infrastructure.
If you are generating value, you must have a hand in the systems of distribution and monetization.
Exactly.
I want to spend some real time on this because it's easy to say build a warehouse, but what does that actually look like for you, the listener, in a modern context?
Let's look at some concrete examples. If you're an independent digital creator, the giggling room is the viral short-form video. The algorithm might give you 1 million views, but you don't own those followers. The platform does.
Right.
So building the warehouse means converting that fleeting attention into an asset you control, like an email list or a direct-to-consumer pipeline. If the algorithm changes tomorrow, you still have access to your audience.
Or what about if you are a software developer at a tech startup? The giggling room is the ping pong tables, the free catered lunches, and the company parties that make you feel like you are part of a family.
Oh, yes. The classic tech perks.
Right. Building the warehouse means looking past the perks and negotiating for actual equity in the company. It means understanding the cap table and the vesting schedule. So when the code you wrote gets sold for millions, you aren't just left with a complimentary company hoodie.
Absolutely. Even in the modern music industry, artists have started to realize this. Building the warehouse today means retaining ownership of your master recordings rather than signing them away for a quick upfront advance.
It means understanding publishing splits, The party is the performance, the warehouse is the paperwork.
The paperwork. Yes.
There is a quote from this section of the text that I want to read directly because I think it is profoundly empowering for anyone listening. It says, quote, "Every creator who celebrated a cultural moment while someone else built the distribution system was not less talented. They were less informed. That is a solvable problem."
So powerful. Shifting the blame from a lack of talent to a lack of information completely changes the game.
It removes the shame entirely.
It really does.
If you feel like you've been working hard and someone else is winning, society often tells you that you just aren't good enough, or talented enough, or working hard enough.
Right.
But equity is saying, no, you have the talent. You threw the incredible party. You just didn't have the information about the warehouse. And information, unlike innate talent, can be learned.
Empowerment begins the exact moment awareness is reclaimed. Once you have that leverage, the cycle of extraction loses its grip.
We have gone on quite a journey today.
We really have.
We started by recognizing the giggling room, understanding how algorithms and institutions use festivity and distraction to keep us from noticing the value being taken, harvesting our data while paying us in dopamine. We looked at the quiet capture, learning from the music industry that throwing the party isn't the same as owning the venue, and understanding that asymmetry in what gets amplified is actual information.
Right.
We zoomed in on the micro level, spotting contaminated acknowledgments in our daily conversations that are designed to keep us off balance.
Prevent us from claiming our worth.
Exactly. And finally, we laid out the 3 moves. Reject powerlessness, name the mechanism accurately, and focus on building the warehouse by owning your distribution and equity.
As we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with a new application of this theory to consider. Something that builds on everything we've discussed today.
Okay, let's hear it.
The text makes it absolutely clear that whoever builds the infrastructure collects the value right.
Right.
Well, think about the rapid rise of artificial intelligence right now. This might be the ultimate quiet capture in human history.
Wow. How so?
Humanity as a whole is providing the culture, the art, the writing, the entire history of our digital interactions. We are the ones throwing the massive, vibrant party of human creativity online.
Yes, we are.
But a handful of tech companies are quietly scraping all of that value to train their models. They are building the ultimate warehouse. The question is, when the party is over and the models are fully trained, who is going to own the pipeline of human knowledge?
That is a chilling thought, but also exactly why this framework is so vital. It gives us the tools to see the hidden wires before the trick is finished.
Absolutely.
So as you go about your day today, whether you're scrolling through your digital life, navigating your day job, or building your creative hobbies, take a moment and ask yourself, what art are you currently producing? What value are you generating with your time and intellect?
And more importantly, who owns the invisible warehouse it's being stored in?
Are you just giggling in someone else's room, or are you building your own pipeline?